Hey there, so welcome to another Berry Patch review. Today I shall be reviewing Star Wars Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad. So, before I begin, I just want to say that if you have played Star Wars Battlefront 2, especially the campaign, you want to learn a little more about the characters, I suggest you read this book. It does actually provide some, what I'm going to call some interesting insight into the book and the relationships between the characters and how they get along and all that stuff. Quite an interesting and does, in my opinion, does very well in setting up the characters for the events of the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign, including what some people are, well, spoiler alert if you have not played the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign. If not, I suggest you go play it. In the campaign, Ian Versio and Del Miko defect from the Empire and they desert the Empire and then effectively join the Rebel Alliance. And from how it was marketed as an all-Imperial story from that, the marketing does seem kind of interesting. Iden and Del turning against Empire actually makes some sense once you read Inferno Squad. It does add a bit to the characterization a lot, and I will kind of get into that in this review, maybe a little more so than I normally would, but well, I greatly enjoyed the book, and before I really go into the stuff I alluded to before, I do want to give you guys my rating. So I've decided to give this book 4.5 stars out of 5. So nearly 5, but not quite, mainly because there's a few things I kind of like, I wish they had done slightly differently, but not too much. Not too much. Just a little bit here and there. Like, really? Can you have done that slightly differently? Could have just made it that much better. But hey, that's my opinion. I overall enjoyed the book. Book has a few flaws, but then again, really, what thing doesn't? Even the few books I've given 5-star ratings still have their own flaws. But so Inferno Squad does, as I said earlier, does do an excellent job at setting up the characters from the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign. It explains the origin of Inferno Squad and why they only have 3 members. They started with 4, but one of them died during the mission that takes up the majority of the novel. So does explain to that. There might, and just want to say from this point, there might be some spoilers for the novel if you have not read it. And as I said earlier, there will be probably some more spoilers from the Battlefront 2 campaign. So it sets up a lot, shows how, one thing I noticed interesting, which they really don't show, which they only mention in passing, is how Aiden's friendship with Gideon Hask kind of disappeared. It became less prominent, more professional. It was more of a professional relationship rather than a good old friendship. But Aiden, Lucio, and Domiko first met in the book and developed a pretty good friendship, more in line with what is kind of the friendship between Aiden and Gideon was when they were younger, but maybe slightly friendlier, which does kind of explain why it was Aiden and Dell who ended up defecting and not Gideon in the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign. And this kind of goes into a bit that both Aiden and Dell did not appreciate Gideon going and killing all the partisans. Dell had developed a friendship with one not I don't know partisans, but the Dreamers, when the Dreamers technicians, a Chandra fan, if I'm correct, and like one would like was thinking of ways the Empire could help that Dreamer to get better, and hopes that Dreamer would end up using his mind to help the Empire. And then of course it is revealed at the end of the book that Aiden did not kill the mentor, she only stunned him. And the mentor, by the way, was Lux Bonteri. Just a good old connection to the Clone Wars, which I love. But that just kind of showed that Iden and Del, while good Imperials, though they have a certain image of the Empire that they like to hold, that they have, and what happened after after the Battle of Endor, kind of showed them that the Empire is not the same anymore, which might have been what kind of which forced their hand in their defection. I would just, I don't think if it wasn't for really what happened on Vardos, I don't think that they would have defected, but that was like the last straw and what they were seeing as the Empire's faults. I think they started seeing the faults all the way back in this novel. They just didn't just kind of push them aside, like it's war, it's what happens, kind of thing. And these are the enemies. But you do see that, but it sets them up. And Gideon's the one who actually kills all the dreamers. Though does nothing with it. It kind of shows that Gideon was much, much more loyal to the Empire. And I think that is because, well, he was an orphan, and then he was raised essentially on the Imperial Academy, or Imperial, wherever it was on Vardos, like not the Academy, but school run by the Empire-ish thing. So Gideon is kind of portrayed that the Empire is his family, is who he identifies with. Ida, on the other hand, had Vardos, had her mother, even had her father, even though her father, well, was a staunch Imperial, he still was her family, and she had family. Gideon didn't. Really, Iden and her family was the closest thing Gideon ever had to an actual family, besides the Empire, which kind of shows how their characters went. Does a good job setting that stuff up a lot. It's also kind of nice to see that more than one, somebody other than just Darth Vader survived the Death Star. Kind of makes you wonder, were there any other Imperials who survived the Death Star? Because in Legends, there was an Imperial TIE fighter pod who survived the Death Star, crashed on Yavin 4, and stayed on Yavin 4 until well after the Battle of Endor. I didn't get off, but in Legends that one TIE fighter pilot didn't, and he eventually conned some Jedi into helping him fix his TIE fighter by not telling them that he was still alive, just leaving the wreckage though. It worked. The Young Jedi Knight series of books, Legends, excellent read. Go read it. But I just realized that connection right now. Very loose, but it is there. But it does not ruin my enjoyment of this book, which I read very quickly. Which, unlike some of the other recent Star Wars novels I've been reading, I was able to get it done in less than a week. Most of them has been taking me like 2, 3, even 4 weeks to read. How much time I give myself to read does affect that, but sometimes it's like I can read some more, and then I look and realize it's 2 a.m. and I've been reading for 4 hours, and like, what's going on? This book is like that. I never actually read it to 2 a.m., but the point is, when I know a good book when I could be super tired, but I pick it up and I end up reading for a few hours when I should actually be sleeping. Kind of a interesting trade-off that a good book causes me to lose sleep sometimes, but what I really am trying to get at here is, for me, a good book makes me lose track of time. I just get engrossed in the book and continue on. So I talked a lot about Gideon, Del, and Iden here, but I have not talked about the other member of Inferno Squad. So that member of Inferno Squad, let me look up her name. She was with naval intelligence and all that, and had like no field experience. Seyan? S-E-Y-N. Seyan, I think. But yeah, her story was kind of interesting. I felt like also, based on how they portrayed her again, she developed a pretty close relationship with one of the Dreamers, probably the closest relationship that any of the Infinite Squad members did while they were undercover. Makes me think that if she had survived the mission and continued on to the Point of Vardos, she might have also defected with Aiden and Dell. Her characterization just seemed like she would have. I'm not quite sure if that's how it would be. That's just the impression I gotten. Especially because, you get the impression that both Aiden, Dell, and Cian all could have easily been swayed to the Dreamer's cause given enough time. You don't get that as much of Gideon. So it doesn't happen, but when you when you look at it, if with all those characters, those three characters, the two who survived, Aiden and Dell, did end up defecting to the rebels after the Galactic Civil War, after seeing all the atrocities of the Empire, including essentially destroying an Imperial ward. That was the final straw, but they look back and see all the other things that thing as well, including Alderaan. And I feel like Cian, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, would have probably come to the same conclusions as Aiden and Dell did over that period of time. Again, it was that time thing. I don't think any of the characters actually would have gone over to the Dreamer's cause as they were in the book. But it does show that over time, given enough time, if the mission kept on going for much longer, they might have. Which I think is quite interesting, but also the book does show that Gideon Task, he doesn't really have that thing at all. He only develops a quote unquote friendship with the Dreamer leader, and seems like he seems most like he's using that friendship to advance his own goals, which are the Empire's goals. Aiden and Dell both develop friendships within the Dreamers. Aiden comes to respect the mentor Lux Barteru even before she realized who he was, but the mentor a lot, and while it's revealed that she would never admit it to him, but to the mentor, she did respect him, which is quite interesting. And of course, Dell had also developed a friendship with one of them, the Chandrafa. Just double checking. Yeah, the Chandrafa named Piku. If I'm pronouncing that right. No. Think a way could treat him like an enemy, but still wanting to help his enemy out to get his health recovered. Because he also he was thinking what Piku could do for the Empire. So there is that, but still thinking like, sure, might have had the Empire thing, but when Dell mentions that to Aiden, he mentions nothing of, and then getting Pico to help the Empire, only something he had thought of eternally much earlier on in the book. So that's something I do find quite interesting, and I kind of wish they had done more with that. Actually, not really most. I think what they did with it was actually quite good. But it does kind of show you a lot how 3 of the 4 actually developed, I would say, semi-meaningful relationships and friendships with members of the Dreamers. Only Gideon Hask seemed to actually develop a actual emotional relationship, friendship. All the others seem to have actually done so, which I find quite interesting to say the least. Now, some of these that's what I'm getting the impression of. I could actually be wrong. But, this video is now over 16 minutes long, so I'm thinking I should be ending it. So, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.